Of the invisible nodes. In this video, we are going to look over a large reference work compiling ephemeride cycle periods and interpretive essays for the planetary nodes from Mercury through Pluto, perihelion and aphelion points, Black Moon Lilith variants, the galactic center, supergalactic center, and great attractor, including historical transits and mundane case studies with the help of my AI agent and Report Labs PDF crafting tool. Please subscribe, like, comment, share if you don't care. Peace and love. And let's get started, because in this video we have a lot to go over. We need an intro to the invisible nodes, planetary nodes theory and astronomy, planetary nodes Mercury through Pluto, cycle periods and heliomotion, geo behavior of the nodes. Check out my video on heliocentric, geocentric stuff, sample ephemerides and critical axis, apsides, perihelion and aphelion, Black Moon Lilith and its variants, galactic center, supergalactic center, and great attractor, interpretive frameworks, historical transits and mundane case studies, working notes for the practitioner, as well as Appendix A, quick reference tables, and Appendix B, glossary. So, let's see here. Intro to the invisible nodes. Beyond the familiar lights of the planets and the moon lie a class of points that have no physical body yet exert a profound structural influence on both the solar system and the, symbolic language of astrology. These are the invisible nodes, the ascending and descending nodes of every planet. The apsides, perihelion and aphelion, the lunar apogee, known as Black Moon Lilith, and its several calculational forms, and the deep space gravitational centers that orient our local cosmic neighborhood, the galactic center, supergalactic center, and the great attractor. This compendium gathers astronomical definitions, orbital periods, approximate ephemerides, and interpretive notes into a single reference. The aim is not to replace specialized software or professional ephemerides, but to provide a coherent overview that a researcher or practitioner can consult when orienting to these slower, quieter factors. The nodes of a body mark the intersection of its orbital plane with a reference plane. For the planets, normally the ecliptic. Where the body crosses from south to north, the ecliptic is the ascending north node, Rahu, the opposite point of the descending south node, Ketu. Because planetary inclinations are small, these nodes move with extreme slowness when viewed heliocentrically or helially, and their geocentric behavior geally, in my opinion. Their behavior is correspondingly restrained for the outer planets. Apsides describe the nearest and farthest points of an elliptical orbit. For planets, these are perihelion and aphelion. For the moon, the corresponding points are perigee and apogee. The lunar apogee is the geometric foundation of Black Moon Lilith. Finally, the galactic and extragalactic points situate the solar system within larger structures. Their tropical longitudes precess at the rate of general precession, which is 1 degree per 72 years, and therefore serve as generational or civilizational markers rather than personal timing devices. Planetary nodes, theory, and astronomy. Every planet orbits the sun in a plane inclined to the ecliptic. The line of intersection of those two planes is the line of the nodes. So, the ascending node is the point at which the planet traveling in its orbit crosses the ecliptic from south to north. And we see that the descending node is 180 degrees opposite. So 2 frames of reference are used. Heliocentric nodes or helionodes, which are measured from the sun. The planetary nodes move with almost uniform and very slow rates, typically between 30 arc minutes and 72 arc minutes of longitude per century. Over a human lifetime, they are effectively stationary, and these positions are the fundamental astronomical quantities. Geocentric nodes. From the Earth, the apparent longitude of a planet's nodes varies through the year. We see for Mercury and Venus, the geonodes can traverse the entire zodiac, and for the outer planets, the range is restricted to a few degrees either side of the helio value. Most modern astrological practice works with the geo-ascending node, often treating it as a sensitive axis. The helio-ascending nodes for epoch J2000 and their approximate centennial rates are well established from planetary orbital elements. The table below summarizes the class values used in both astronomy and specialized astrological literature. So planetary nodes, Mercury through Pluto. These are the helio-ascending nodes, for 1975 near J2000. And we see approximate helio-ascending nodes and geo-annual ranges. Values rounded, and consult a Swiss ephemeris or equivalent for precise work. So we're looking at the planet, Helio, motion divided by 100 year, and geocentric range. So Mercury, Helio, 18 degrees Taurus, adding 71 arc minutes, and Geo, entire zodiac. Venus, 16 degrees Gemini, Helio, adding 54 arc minutes, entire zodiac Geo. Mars, 19 degrees Taurus, Helio, adding 46 arc minutes, motion divided by 100 year, and 2 degrees through 7 degrees Taurus for Geo range. Jupiter, 10 degrees Cancer, Helio, adding 61 arc minutes, and 21 through 29 degrees Gemini, Cancer for Geo range. Saturn, 23 degrees Cancer, Helio, adding 52 arc minutes, 17 degrees through 29 degrees Cancer, Geo range. Uranus, 14 degrees Gemini, Helio, adding 30 arc minutes, 10 through 16 degrees Gemini, Geo range. Neptune, 11 degrees Leo, Helio, adding 66 arc minutes, 9 through 13 degrees Leo, Geo range. And Pluto, 20 degrees Cancer, Helio, adding 72 arc minutes, 18 through 21 degrees Cancer, Geo range. So because the Helio nodes advance so slowly, the same approximate degree remains valid across an entire century for interpretive purposes. The Geo bubble is largest for the inner planets and shrinks rapidly with increasing Helio distance. Cycle periods in Helio motion. The nodal period of a planet is the time required for its ascending node to complete one full circuit of the ecliptic. These periods are measured in tens of millennia and therefore have little practical application in ordinary natal or mundane timing. What matters for most work is the almost stationary character of the nodes relative to the fixed stars in the tropical zodiac. So here we see approximate annual Helio motion of the ascending nodes, arc seconds. So we're looking at the planet, approx annual motion arc seconds, and note. So here we see planet Mercury, 42.6 arc seconds, with fastest among the classical planets. Venus, 32.4 arc seconds, steady advance. Mars, 27.7 arc seconds, comparable to Venus. Jupiter, 36.7 arc seconds, slightly faster than Mars. Saturn, 31.4 arc seconds, nearly matches Venus. Uranus, 18.0 arc seconds, slowest of the outer planets listed. Neptune, 39.4 arc seconds, comparable to Jupiter. And Pluto at negative 49 arc seconds, slightly faster than Jupiter. Slightly faster than Neptune, not Jupiter. Okay, so over 100 years, the cumulative motion ranges from roughly 30 arc minutes Uranus to a little over 1 degrees for Mercury, Pluto. For any practical chart spanning less than a century, the nodes may be treated as fixed points, whose geo variation is the only short-term effect to consider. Now we look at geo behavior of the nodes. From the Earth, the apparent position of a planet's nodes is not fixed. The geo node is the intersection of the planet's orbital plane with the ecliptic, as seen from Earth's changing vantage point. So we see the geo node is the intersection of the planet's orbital plane with the ecliptic as seen from Earth's changing vantage point. For Mercury and Venus, this intersection can occur at any longitude. The nodes appear to sweep the zodiac in the course of a year. For Mars, the range is already limited to a few degrees. For Jupiter and beyond, the geo node stays within a narrow band around the Helio value. Astrologers who work with planetary nodes therefore distinguish two practices. The first is using the Helio node as a fixed sensitive degree, and the second is tracking the geo node's annual oscillation and noting the dates when it stations or reaches extreme longitude. The latter technique is most useful for Mercury and Venus, whose geo nodes can form aspects to natal planets across the whole chart. Alright, let's look at these sample ephemerides critical axis. So the following table gives approximate helio-ascending node positions at the beginning of selected decades in the 20th and early 21st centuries. Because motion is so slow, interpolation between decades is linear and sufficiently accurate for most purposes. Critical node axis, the degrees where the geonodes reach extremes or form notable configurations, have been mapped by researchers for the 20th century and remain approximately valid into the 21st. For Jupiter, the opposition of the nodes falls near 10 degrees Cancer, 10 degrees Capricorn. For Saturn, near 23 degrees Cancer, 23 degrees Capricorn. These axes function as collective sensitive points in mundane charts. In this table is approximate helio-ascending nodes by decade. Positions rounded. Modern software will refine the minutes. We see the year from 1900. Mercury, 17 degrees 10. Venus, 15 degrees 46. Mars, 18 degrees 57. Jupiter, 9 degrees 28. Saturn, 22 degrees 47. Uranus, 13 degrees 29. Neptune, 10 degrees 41. And Pluto, 18 degrees 57. We see in 1950, Mercury, 17 degrees 45. Venus at 16 degrees 14. 19 degrees 20 for Mars, 9 degrees 59 for Jupiter, 23 degrees 12 for Saturn, 13 degrees 44 for Uranus, 11 degrees 14 for Neptune, and 19 degrees 38 for Pluto. We notice in 2000, 18 degrees 21 for Mercury, 16 degrees 41 for Venus, 19 degrees 44 for Mars, 10 degrees 28 for Jupiter, 23 degrees 38 for Saturn, 13 degrees 59 for Uranus, 11 degrees 47 for Neptune, 20 degrees 19 for Pluto. And at 2025, 18 degrees 38 for Mercury, 16 degrees 55 for Venus, 19 degrees 56 for Mars, 10 degrees 43 for Jupiter, 23 degrees 51 for Saturn, 14 degrees 07 for Uranus, 12 degrees 03 for Neptune, and 20 degrees 38 for Pluto. So now we look at apsites, perihelion, and aphelion. Apsites of a planetary orbit are the points of closest approach, perihelion, and greatest recession, aphelion, from the Sun. They are defined by the argument of perihelion and the longitude of perihelion. Because the orbits are only mildly eccentric except for Mercury and Pluto, the difference between perihelion and aphelion distances is modest for most planets, yet the symbolic polarity of near-far remains useful in interpretive work, and here's approximate perihelion and aphelion distances, eccentricity, and sidereal periods. And right away we notice planets Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. For Mercury, it's perihelion 0.307, the aphelion being 0.467, the eccentricity is 0.206, and orbital period is 87.97 days. For Venus, the perihelion is 0.718, 0.728 for aphelion, 0.007 for eccentricity, and 224.7 days. Now, what's more important to me, guys, to be completely honest, is the orbital period for these planets. So for Earth, it's 365.26 days. Mars, 686.98 days. Jupiter, 11.86 years. Saturn, 29.46 years. Uranus, 84.0 years, so 84 years exact. Neptune, 164.8 years. And Pluto, 247.9 years. So the longitude of perihelion itself precesses, though far more slowly than the mean anomaly. Earth's perihelion currently falls in early January near 13 degrees Capricorn in the tropical zodiac, so that northern hemisphere winter coincides with the closest approach to the Sun. The secular shift contributes to long-term climatic cycles and is one of the orbital parameters considered in Milankovitch theory. In natal and mundane astrology, the planetary perihelion points are sometimes used as additional sensitive degrees, especially when a planet is near its own perihelion or aphelion at birth or at a significant event. The symbolism of intensity perihelion versus diffusion or detachment aphelion can be applied with care. Black Moon Lilith and its variants. So Black Moon Lilith, I'll start calling it BML. Sorry guys, phone is not off. So BML, or Black Moon Lilith, is not a physical body but a geometric point. The lunar apogee, the farthest point of the moon's orbit from the Earth, because the lunar orbit is continuously perturbed by the sun. The true position of the apogee oscillates, giving rise to several calculational conventions used in astrology. Mean Black Moon Lilith, or MBML. The mean Lilith is the average mathematically soothed position of the lunar apogee. It advances at a nearly uniform rate of approximately 40 degrees per year, completing a full circuit of the zodiac in about 8.85 years, roughly 8 years and 10 months. It never turns retrograde. Most printed ephemerides and popular software default to this value. Mean Lilith spends on average about 9 months in each sign. True osculating Black Moon Lilith. So the true, or osculating Lilith, is the instantaneous apogee of the Keplerian ellipse that best fits the moon's actual orbit at a given moment. Because of solar perturbations, it can deviate from the mean position by as much as 20 degrees to 30 degrees. Occasionally a full sign, it moves irregularly, sometimes accelerating, sometimes slowing, and can station and turn retrograde for shorter intervals. The oscillations have a period near one synodic month. Many contemporary practitioners prefer true Lilith for its closer adherence to the actual geometry at the moment of birth. And we see its other variants: interpolated natural Lilith, or NL. An intermediate calculation that attempts to remove some of the artificial high-frequency oscillation of the pure oscillating apogee while remaining closer to the true geometric point than the pure mean. Dark Moon Lilith, or Weldy-Math, a hypothetical second lunar body proposed in the late 19th century, not confirmed by modern observation and now rarely used. Asteroid 1181 Lilith, a real minor planet with its own ephemeris, distinct from the Black Moon point and not interchangeable with it. So, interpretively, Black Moon Lilith is associated with the untamed, instinctual, or excluded aspects of the psyche, the places where desire, autonomy, or shadow material refuse domestication. House placement and aspects individualize the expression far more than the sign alone, which is shared by everyone born within a roughly 9-month window. So here we see the galactic center, supergalactic center, and great attractor. So the galactic center is the rotational and gravitational heart of the Milky Way, marked by the radio source Sagittarius A star and a supermassive black hole. In the tropical zodiac, it currently lies near 27 degrees Sag, approximately 27 degrees 14 in 2026. Because of precession, it advances roughly 1 degree every 72 years. It will enter Capricorn around the year 2225. In the sidereal zodiac, Lahiri, it falls near 3 degrees Sag. Astrologically, the GC is treated as a point of collective orientation, spiritual or informational download, and sometimes crises of meaning. Conjunctions or hard aspects to natal planets are often described as a marking a life that participates in larger cultural or evolutionary currents. SGC. So the supergalactic center is the approximate center of the Virgo supercluster, the larger structure of which the local group, and therefore the Milky Way, is a member. Its tropical longitude falls near the beginning of Libra, around 1 degrees through 2 degrees Libra, in contemporary ephemerides. Like the GC, it moves only with precession and functions as a generational or civilizational marker. And Great Attractor, or GA, is a gravitational anomaly in the direction of the constellations Norma and Triangulum Australe, roughly 150 to 250 million light-years distant. It is not a single object, but a concentration of mass that draws the local group and surrounding galaxies toward it. In the tropical zodiac, it is located near 14 degrees Sag. Some sources cite values between 12 degrees and 16 degrees, depending on the precise definition and epoch. It therefore forms a close relationship with the galactic center, both lying in Sag and separated by about 13 degrees. In interpretive work, the Great Attractor is sometimes described as a pull toward ultimate source, collective destiny, or the unresolved gravitational question of a chart or an era. Because both the GC and GA are effectively fixed for any human lifetime, their influence is best read in natal charts as a background orientation rather than a timing factor. We see approximate tropical longitudes of the principal deep space points. So here we see the point, approx tropical longitude for 2020s, and notes. So you see the galactic center with the approx tropical longitude being 27 degrees Sag, and Sag A star precesses 1 degrees divided by 72 years. Great attractor, 14 degrees Sag, mass concentration in the normal region. We see supergalactic center, 1 through 2 degrees Libra, Virgo supercluster center. Alright, so here are the interpretive frameworks. The invisible nodes invite a structural rather than purely planetary style of interpretation. A few working principles have emerged from the specialized literature. Nodes as thresholds. Planetary nodes mark the places where a planet's orbital plane crosses the ecliptic plane of Earth's seasonal and solar experience. They therefore symbolize points of entry and exit, incarnation and release, or the integration of a planetary principle into the collective solar system field. Apsides as intensity poles. Perihelion emphasizes concentration, heat, and accelerated experience of a planetary archetype. Aphelion emphasizes distance, objectivity, and sometimes detachment or exile from the same archetype. Lilith as the excluded or autonomous lunar principle. We see mean Lilith describes a steady archetypal pattern, while true Lilith describes a live, oscillating expression of the same theme, and both reward attention to house and aspect rather than sign alone. And galactic points as orientation. The GC, SGC, and GA do not do things in the manner of transiting planets. They indicate the larger gravitational and informational field within which a life or an era is situated. Conjunctions or hard aspects often correlate with a sense of participation in something that exceeds personal biography. Historical transits and mundane case studies. So because planetary nodes move so slowly, their transits are effectively the passage of faster bodies over the fixed nodal degrees, or the slow drift of the nodes themselves across sensitive points in national or foundation charts. A few illustrative notes follow. So here we see outer planet nodes and collective themes. The heliocentric nodes of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto have remained in the same few degrees of Gemini, Leo, and Cancer respectively throughout the modern era. When personal or national planets cross these degrees, the themes associated with those outer planets, innovation and disruption, Uranus, dissolution and idealization, Neptune, depth and power, Pluto, are often activated in a collective register. The Cancer-Capricorn axes that host the nodes of Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto has been repeatedly emphasized in 20th and 21st century mundane charts at moments of institutional restructuring and emotional or territorial redefinition. We see the B and L cycles. Mean Lilith's 8.85-year cycle has been examined in relation to cultural waves of interest and autonomy, sexuality, and the status of the outsider. Successive Lilith returns in a national chart can mark periods when previously marginalized voices or desires become temporarily central. Because the cycle is relatively short, it is one of the more trackable and visible node rhythms for intermediate-term mundane work. Galactic center and epochal orientation. The slow precessional advance of the GC through late Sag has been correlated by some researchers with successful cultural redefinitions of the relationship between the individual and the cosmic or religious absolute. Its eventual entry into Capricorn in the 23rd century is sometimes read as a symbolic shift from expansive, questing Sagittarian orientations toward more structured, institutional, or materialized forms of collective purpose. Such readings remain speculative and are offered here only as examples of the scale at which these points are usually considered. Concrete case studies require precise national or event charts and are best pursued with professional ephemerides in a clear methodological frame. The present volume supplies the background data and conceptual vocabulary. Detailed historical correlations remain the work of individual research programs. And now we are going to, I think, kind of finish up here because we just have the appendixes and then this is our working notes here for the practitioner. First, always distinguish helio from geoplanetary nodes. For outer planets, the difference is small. For Mercury and Venus, it is decisive. Second, for B and L, decide in advance whether you use mean, true, or interpolated values. State the choice. Differences of 20 degrees through 30 degrees are common and can change the sign. Next, we see treat the GC, GA, and SGC as background orientation points. Their aspects to natal planets are generational rather than personal timing factors. When examining historical periods, the slow drift of the outer planet nodes across fixed stars or national angles can be more informative than any single transit of a faster body. Software that implements the Swiss ephemeris or an equivalent high-precision library is recommended for all professional work. The tables in this compendium are approximate and intended for orientation and study. So Appendix A is a quick reference table, summary of key periods and positions with the point, body, key cycle, or position, as well as a practical note. Quick reference summary of the principal and visible notes and deep space points. So we see the mean Black Moon Lilith. The key cycle or position is 8.85 years full cycle. And the practical note here is 9 months per sign, never retrograde. True Black Moon Lilith. It oscillates adding, subtracting 20 through 30 degrees around the mean. It can station and turn retrograde. Mercury node Helio, 18 degrees Taurus, adding 71 arc seconds, arc minutes, CY, in per cycle. So practical note here is Geo node sweeps whole zodiac. And Venus node Helio, 16 degrees Gemini, adding 54 arc minutes per cycle. Geo node sweeps whole zodiac. Mars node Helio, 19 degrees Taurus, adding 46 arc minutes per cycle. Narrow Geo range. Jupiter node Helio, 10 degrees Cancer, adding 61 arc minutes per cycle. Axis near 10 degrees Cancer Capricorn. Saturn node Helio, 23 degrees Cancer, adding 52 arc minutes per cycle. Axis near 23 degrees Cancer Capricorn. Uranus node Helio, 14 degrees Gemini, adding 30 arc minutes per cycle, very slow, narrow Geo range. Neptune node Helio, 12 degrees Leo, adding 66 arc minutes per cycle, narrow Geo range. Pluto node Helio, 20 degrees Cancer, adding 72 arc minutes per cycle, narrow Geo range. In the galactic center, 27 degrees Sag, 2020s, precesses 1 degrees per 72 years, great attractor. 14 degrees Sag, gravitational anomaly, and supergalactic center is 1 through 2 degrees Libra, the Virgo supercluster. Alright, so Appendix B is glossary. So ascending node or north node Rahu is the point where an orbiting body crosses the reference plane, usually the ecliptic, from south to north. In the descending node, south node Ketu, the opposite point, 180 degrees from the ascending node. Aphelion, the farthest point of a helio orbit from the Sun. Perihelion, the closest point of a helio orbit to the Sun. Apogee, the farthest point of the moon's or any satellite's orbit from Earth. Perigee, the closest point of the moon's orbit to Earth. Mean Lilith, the average uniformly moving lunar apogee used in most standard ephemerides. True oscillating Lilith, the instantaneous lunar apogee derived from the oscillating Keplerian ellipse at a given moment. Helio, measured from the center of the Sun. Geo, measured from the center of the Earth. Precession, the slow westward drift of the equinoxes relative to the fixed stars, approximately 1 degree every 72 years. Galactic center, the rotational center of the Milky Way, marked by Sag A star. You see the great attractor is a large-scale gravitational concentration, drawing the local group in neighboring galaxies. And supergalactic center is the approximate center of the Virgo supercluster. For precise positions, always consult the current high-precision ephemeris. This reference is intended for study, orientation, and contemplative use only. With peace and love, I'll see you in the next video teaching you more advanced astrology for free. Piscean out.